guys, Solar Battler here, and this is the second tutorial in the FTL series of tutorials I was going to make that cover ships in the game. Today I'm going to be covering the Kestrel cruiser type ship, which there are 3 of, as should be noted. I'm going to try to give you some of the best advice in my case, or opinions I have on what you can do with this ship and how you can improve it, and just some general statistics and stuff you should know about the ship. So yeah, I'm going to try to cover all 3 ships within the short amount of time I have, so here we go. So the first one on the list is the Kestrel, which is the Type A layout. This is the one you actually will start out the game with, and it's actually pretty easy to get anyways. So it comes with, weapon-wise, an Artemis missile system, which is basically a 2 damaging missile with high shield piercing, and a burst laser that shoots about 3 shots a charge. These weapons are actually fairly decent to start out with, and you can get pretty far with them, so long as you don't do anything completely stupid. You also start out with 3 crew members. All 3 are humans. Okay, so one thing I will want to mention, and this is pretty vital. This ship and the layout B that precedes it are all like very prone to fires. I'm not sure if it's like a thing with the game, but every time I've played this ship, that or this one, they always seem to catch on fire like so easy. It's not even funny. No other ship I have does this to me, which I'm never sure why. So, the next question you'll probably be asking is, when I'm playing this, what should I be upgrading, and what should I cover first when I start upgrading? Well, on basic subsystems, try upgrading. Well, actually, don't try. You probably should. Get the next layer of shields. You will definitely need it, because this ship can't take hits because of its size. Plus, you also want to upgrade the pilot, which is a lot easier to do than upgrading the shields. It does not require power. Upgrade the reactor constantly is something I will encourage, because you're going to need a lot of power to do other things. Once you have decent shields and pilot, you'll also want to work on the engines. Engines are relatively cheap, and upgrading to about level 3 or 4 should get you through a good part of the game. Before you reach the flagship, make sure to at least get level 5 if you have enough power for it. But that's only if you're really desperate. Another thing you also want to do, and this is not so much with those systems, is you're going to want to find better weapons. I mean, the Artemis and the burst laser will get you pretty much all the way to sector 6, 7, I think. I don't know, the farthest I've got was 7, I think, before I actually managed to upgrade them. Find some. You don't have to get rid of the weapons. You can the Artemis missile is actually very viable to use against the flagship because it shoots fast, and the burst laser is useful for taking out shields. But make sure you find at least another weapon. It could be a flak cannon, it could be another laser, or another missile. So long as you know that you have enough missiles to do things. Which brings me on my next topic. The thing you gotta remember about this ship, especially at the beginning of this one, conserve your missiles. You do start out about a fairly decent amount of missiles, not many, but it works. So make sure you conserve those, because you only have so many, and they do cost quite a bit of scrap to buy new ones if you don't find them. But if you're not using them too often, or you are using them, more than likely in the first 4 sectors you're going to find a lot more missiles if you're lucky. Some subsystems you want to find, ones you can buy and store. As with all ships, and other than the stealth cruiser, make sure you at least get cloaking before you fight the flagship. The cloaking will increase your evasion and also allow you to get away with a lot more things in the terms of defense. A drone bay is extremely beneficial to this ship, as you'll find a lot of drone parts, and more than likely you'll have more of a chance. You'll find a few drones along the way usually too, which you can put to good use in this ship, which is extremely worth it. If you don't want a drone bay, hacking is perfectly viable, because requires just as much drone parts to do it, and works pretty well on disrupting ships and shields to take on things. If you still have any more left, which I think you should, you try to get mind control. Or if you manage to get a Mantis crew member or a crew member that you can get attacking with, get a teleporter. If not, mind control is extremely viable and is extremely useful if you have it fully upgraded. And again, this thing is prone to fires. So moving on to the second one, the Red Tail. Really, the way you play is pretty much the same way as the Kestrel, except the thing is, instead of having a rocket system, you have 4 basic lasers. To some degree, this is actually much better, but at the same time, you have to manually aim all 4 of them in order to shoot if you don't have auto-fire working. These 4 lasers can actually do well up to about Sector 5, but you're going to want to find more substantial weapons by then, because 4 basic lasers is not going to cut it for fighting higher level ships and ships with more than 3 to 4 shields. Well, you're not going to find any more ships with more than 4 shields unless they have a Zoltan shield, but you get my point. Finding a rocket system would be extremely beneficial to this ship if you can find even an Artemis or a Nito, I guess they call it, for the really low-level lasers. Well, not lasers, missiles. Bleh. This thing is still prone to fires, but this one has a lot more airlocks you can do more sacrificing with. There's airlocks around this area of the ship, and here. There's ones regarding the captain's cockpit and the oxygen area. As with the Kestrel, prioritize getting your shields. Engines are also extremely important, because this thing is if you train your crew up well enough, you will have decent dodge rate with the engines, and the pilot is still recommended to at least get it up to the next level. I definitely encourage you having a crew teleporter on this ship, because there is a Mantis crew member here, and a Zoltan, which can do some decent damage. And it's very likely you're going to find more crew member by later in the game anyways, making it extremely useful. As per all other ships, get cloaking if you can afford it. Clone Bay, if you do manage to get a teleporter, is extremely recommended, because there's always a chance you might lose your crew member in a fight. So, do think about that. And like I said, find better weapons, and another thing to add to your list of upgrades, try to upgrade your sensors at least once you can send your crew in. If for some reason you're still not able to get a crew teleporter, which it would be depressing in this ship, get at least try to get mind control, which you can at least take control of enemies in your ship and on the enemy ship with the enhanced sensors if you do manage to take that route. Augments, which I forgot to mention on the other one, but refer to my first one, the first tutorial I posted earlier in the week for that one if you want just basic augments, because really you don't need too many difficult augments for that one. As for the other one, one thing I encourage you to get is the pre-igniter, which increases your speed of weapons loading when you start out a battle. If you can manage to find a Zoltan shield, which is only possible if you go to the Zoltan controlled worlds or sectors, or you do the unarmed Zoltan vessel random event, which surprisingly happens more often than you think, if you want my opinion. But if you can get those, that'd be possible. And finding an FTL pre-navigation augment is extremely useful as well. Tell when things are coming so you can plan ahead. Especially with the fact you have 4 basic lasers, which if you ran into any substantial ships that know what they're doing, you're not going to last long. That's all I can say about this one. Moving on to the third one, then I'll talk about achievements after that. The Swallow is the last ship and is it's a layout C. This one is extremely unique for the fact that it does not have a med bay, and it actually has to rely on solely cloning in order to do things. And it also has a Lanius crew member, which if you're not if you haven't unlocked any other ship that has a light layout C, this will be probably be a first for you, because this is probably the easiest C to get if you know what you're doing. Now, unlike the other ones, this one's a lot less prone to fires, mostly because you can move the lanius around to get rid of the fires. Plus, you can just open the doors to the cockpit of the engine room if you just want to keep it in one room. But it also has blast doors in rather appropriate areas. Well, except for the front, but that's a price you can honestly pay if you really had to. What you should upgrade immediately, as I forgot to mention Armins actually, but that's probably part of the upgrade thing. You start out with an ion stunner, which is pretty much like an ion regular cannon, like, oh, let me show you, like an ion blast cannon. It's basically the same thing, but instead of just stunning shields and stuff, it can stun crew members as well. It's actually very useful. You also get a set of dual lasers, which basically it's just one laser that shoots two shots. They're not very powerful shots, but they're helpful to start out. Before Sector 4, you will definitely want to get another weapon of some kind. Weapon systems power should be pretty easy to get anyways, because you only have 2 weapons and it'll cost 25 scrap to upgrade it to the next one. So finding another low-level laser or missile is extremely beneficial to you. As with the other ships, shields and engines first, 20 scrap for the pilot. Clone Bay you may want to upgrade if you want, because it actually does. If you decide not to buy a med bay, which I really don't encourage it unless you really think you need it, just upgrade the Clone Bay so you get a certain amount of HP healed per jump, which is extremely useful. Sensors, you actually have 2 sensors already, which is good enough to see the interior of ships. So if you do manage to get a crew teleporter, which this is another ship I can encourage getting it for because of the Lanius, and I tend to find a lot of Mantis playing this ship, so but that's just me. Like I said, engines, shields, cloaking is recommended again for subsystems you can find. Crew teleporter. It could be up for debate if you want either mind control or a drone bay. Drone bay would be beneficial for this, because you can at least deflect some of the missiles that might breach the hull, because this thing does have an issue with getting breached a lot. That's the only, instead of having fires, it has like issues with breaches, I guess. But outside of that, that's up to you if you want drone bay or mind control. You can do hacking is viable as well, but I don't know. It didn't seem to work for me on this ship. Augments. There's an augment you can find that improves the Clone Bay regeneration and healing, I think, but I'm not 100% sure anymore. It's been a while. And if you can find ones that deal with either dealing with fires and breaches, and ones that have your damage taken when you're loss of oxygen, that's extremely useful for augments, because there's a lot of issues with the fact that a lot of the enemies will try to shoot for your oxygen tanks pretty early on if they can't penetrate anything else, because that's smack dab in the middle of the ship. Well, that's all. I think that's all I need to cover for me. The next ship we will be covering is the energy cruiser next. That'll be the next one on the list of ships to cover. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if there's another ship you want me to do before the NG Cruiser, or there's some kind of tips you want me to do, request in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. And as usual, happy hunting.